Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, and welcome to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is The Listening Mentor. What is a listening mentor? It's someone who listens at an elevated level and is a mentor to coach others how to listen at an elevated level. When we're listening at an elevated level, that means that we're listening without judging, we're listening without interrupting, we're listening without providing a solution that no one asked for. And we are cultivating deeper connections, better relationships, and having more authentic conversations. Joining me on this show each and every week is Caroline Heward. She is the Harley Street stress expert, and we are going to be talking about manipulation, rationalization, and excuses. Before I bring her out, I just want to share an announcement hot off the press, if I can find my announcement, that USA Global TV is proud to announce the live radio stream can be heard on the MyTuner, MyTuner radio app, or mytuner-radio.com. This is in addition to listening on Business Talk Radio. That website is businesstalkradio1.com. So we truly are USA Global TV and radio. All right, exciting. All right, let's welcome the Harley Street stress expert, Caroline Heward.
Hello.
Hello, nice to see you again. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It is getting like that, isn't it?
Yes, it is. One week after another, they fly by.
They do. I don't know where the weeks go, and that kind of says that we're having fun.
Absolutely. It's always good to see you. I always learn something from you. And our topic today about manipulation is really important, that we can identify what that looks like, and we can be aware of when we are rationalizing our manipulative behavior or making excuses about it. But before we do that, Caroline, I'm going to spotlight you. And if you can share with our audience, as always, I ask you to describe what is Harley Street and what do you do as the Harley Street stress expert? How do you help people?
Well, Harley Street is the famous street known in Europe and in London, UK, as the place where the best doctors, consultants, and alternative complementary therapists hang out. And it's the place where you have to have a license to practice. So my credentials have been crawled all over by their medical board, and they've said, yes, they deem me to be appropriate to be working there. Why am I working there? Well, I felt that if I was going to be a complementary therapist, I may as well work from the best place in London and in Europe, as being serious about what I do. I help people with all manner of their stress, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, behavioral, whether it's relationship issues, intimacy, bereavement issues, anger, whether it's physical ache and pain, emotional ache and pain. It's whatever you're complaining about, essentially. And what I do is I identify root cause to alleviate the repeating pattern of those pains coming up time and time again. I offer a free Zoom consultation, which will literally bust your stress and give you an incredible night's sleep. And you can get that on emailing me to make a booking on nomorestress@live.co.uk.
Thanks, Caroline. Thank you very much. And I also want to share that you are an integral part of our elevated listening community going to put up the graphic for that. And if you're not aware of what this is, let me just tell you, you're missing out. Caroline leads us in a guided meditation. The one this past week was mind-blowing. I am not exaggerating. You can join our community by going over to drjacalyn.com/join. Caroline, can you just tell us a little bit about this last exercise, compassion exercise, and the meditation that you led?
Yeah, the compassion exercise is the one that I shared is essentially one that you do for others that you have an anxiousness with, or an upset, or you've fallen out with them, and you do the exercise with your awareness on them. Actually, it moves you into a space of inner peace. So whatever you do for the other person, you're actually doing for yourself. And it's amazing. I've had some incredible results with it, with using it myself on some hostilities that I've had, with people, and it's been incredible what's turned around. And it really is a compassion exercise that you do on others, that actually you get the incredible sensory experience of inner peace.
Thanks, Caroline. I know that in being there when you were doing it, and then also when I was editing it for our community, that I felt very like, oh, I wish someone else was doing this work for me. No.
It's simple. It's simple and
is
incredibly effective. Everything that I do is simple because I don't want to complicate anything for anybody. It's not supposed to be difficult, and yet the most simple have the most incredible and effective results.
Yes, and very powerful. That's what I was saying as well. So I'm going to lead us into our discussion topic for today, which is about manipulation. Many of us might feel like we've been manipulated, but we don't realize that we could also be manipulating. What does manipulative behavior look like from a big perspective?
It's coming from a place where you have a hidden agenda, an orientated goal that you want to get out of something. So you're in there to get a result, and by hook or by crook, you're going in to that conversation, that expression with the other person, with an ulterior motive, with something that's in it for you. And let's face it, we're all doing, we're all looking for something, but it's a hidden agenda in terms of the way that you're kind of being very nice to the person, and actually there is a motive behind that that gives you more of the upper hand.
And Caroline, is it possible, as I just mentioned a moment ago, that we can be manipulating but don't see it ourselves?
Absolutely, because we'll be operating from our wants and our desires, and we won't see what other people will see. Other people will see that, when they're seeing two people interacting, they will see that there's something going on. Generally, the people inside that communication interaction might not. It will just feel a bit uncomfortable. And it's when there's a win-lose, or one person has the upper hand and is guiding the other person into a decision that they may be uncomfortable about.
So when we think about manipulation overall, is it typically applied, demonstrated when it comes to a decision that needs to be made? So manipulation and decision can go together?
Yes, absolutely. It could be, in England we say Hobson's choice, where it's like sort of bad on both sides. Which do you choose? Because if you go this way, it's not going to be good, and if you go this way, it's not going to be good. So it's kind of, you've got no real choice. You just have to make a choice. And so it's where it puts the person into a place where they don't feel they have a good choice.
So
and it's uncomfortable to make that decision because either way, they don't feel like they're winning.
Thank you for sharing that. And if I wanted you to do something that you had already told me over and over again you didn't want to do, and I was going to try to manipulate you, I might pick out something, one small thing that would resonate with you. Whereas there are all these other reasons why you don't want to do it, but there might be one small thing that you could find value in. And I know that that might be a little bit of a sore spot for you or a trigger for you. And then you might decide to do what it is I'm asking you to do. Does that sound right?
Oh, yes. Triggers. If you know, and that's the height of the manipulation, if you find somebody's trigger and you couch the questions in within that trigger, then it will make them feel uncomfortable. And we do know each other's triggers if we're if we know the other person, if we've got a friendship or a business partnership relationship, or even sort of family, in sort of my family, we would say, you know to press my buttons, and it's because we know each other, that we know what will send the other one, railing, so we kind of almost play to what we will push the buttons of the other person. And it's not bad, it's just human behavior. That's what we do.
And in many cases, we tend to rationalize what we're doing. So, in that example that I just gave, I might say to myself, well, this is the best thing for Caroline. She doesn't see it, but I know that she's going to be better off for having done this, which might be completely wrong, or it might not even be my prerogative or my place to even make that decision. But I might use that as an excuse for you to do what it is I want you to do.
And it's very difficult for the other person then to say no. And that's when the manipulation really is at its height of play, that it makes it, whatever's going on the other side in terms of the manipulation, that the person finds it difficult to say no. And that's the challenge. So it's not a comfortable yes for the person that's saying yes. I like to leave it where if I'm offering something to, talk about it, and when the person's asking me, well, what do you think I should do? I usually say, well, it's not my place to make up your mind. I can give you the information and answer all your questions, but actually you have to decide. Because when you take the upper hand and the power hand by making them make a decision, they're never going to thank you for it.
Very true. And we've discussed on this show before about narcissists, but narcissists are not the only ones who use manipulation. It can be each and every one of us. And when I think about the times that I felt manipulated, or if I felt I was manipulating someone and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's the other person doesn't feel good. It's making someone feel bad emotions, because you're basically saying, if you don't do this, then this or that's going to happen. If you don't do what I want, I'm leaving you. If you don't eat the food that I'm putting on this table, I'm never cooking for you again. Like, it could be, it's endless, the amount of examples that we could give. But in each case, the other person feels bad unless we set boundaries and we realize that we're being manipulated.
Well, what you've just described is what's called gaslighting, that you're saying something to the person to make them feel bad or inadequate, so they have to say yes. And there's been a lot of conversation about gaslighting, because the person is saying yes under duress. They're not saying yes because they feel that it's right. They're saying yes because they're feeling guilty to say yes. And there's a process of somebody that can gaslight the other person so they become very diminished. And when you're diminished, you lose all sense of confidence and self-esteem. So you'll say yes to almost keep the peace.
And in those examples that you gave, if this type of behavior perpetuates, so you're in a relationship with someone and the one person knows the other's triggers and they basically take advantage of them and the other person doesn't stand up for themselves, what can ultimately happen to this person who doesn't stand up for themselves?
Well, they'll lose all sense of self-esteem, confidence, their power, and their own feeling of being themselves. They'll almost be afraid to be themselves, and they will be living in the other person's shadow. You know, it's never a good situation to be in, and it is happening. You know, where there's a persecutor and a victim. You know, that these relationships exist. You know, because they stem from childhood, and when there's a persecutor in the child's life, then they're the victim, that they will, unless they've had some real, sort of counseling to help them through the integration of what's happened in their childhood, they will create in their adult life the same scenarios of, them being the victim and always creating a persecutor, whether it be through their family, their siblings, whether it be through friendships, or certainly indeed their own children. That, because the behavior is a perpetuating cycle, and it's in the person. The person will be feeling the victim, and every victim will create a persecutor in whatever way that materializes. And it's because everything is vibration, everything is frequency. And so if there is somebody walking around in the frequency of victim, they will tend to attract somebody that's in the vibration of persecutor.
Sorry, this goes on generation after generation?
Yeah. Unless the person has actually got had an intervention and got some help, because we can't help what happens in our childhood. It's how we respond and react afterwards. And if there is a challenge, and the person will be aware of it in their relationships, because they will be saying it. They'll say, I was a victim in my childhood, a victim in my adulthood, a victim in my marriage, a victim in my, they will be saying those things because they will be seeing it and they will be living that repeating pattern. And it's because everything is vibration. If you're walking around in the vibration of gratitude, it's amazing how much stuff comes your way that you're grateful for. If you're walking around in the vibration of anger, it'll be amazing how many people will show up that are angry in themselves and will relate to that anger that you have. And it's like, whatever you're being, you will naturally, attract that vibration that balances you. And it's not wrong, it's not right, it simply is. And when somebody becomes aware of it, that's when, if they do go and seek help, with a counselor or with somebody that they can actually talk through, because they will recognize that it's happening, because they'll be talking about it. They might be saying something like, all women are the same, or all men are the same, and all women cheat, and all men, just want me for my money. There'll be generalizations, and it'll be in their conversation. They probably won't be so comfortable in being faced with the fact that they're the ones that are always in that cycle. It's not that all the women are this and all the men are that. It's the fact that they're always in those situations, that the one that's in that repeat cycle is them, not the other person. That there's many different names, people, situations, circumstances, events. They are always the one that's there. That's the common denominator. And sometimes it's hard to look at self.
Yes, that's fascinating. When I think of manipulation, I was preparing for the show, and I've always loved to sing. I sing all the time. I sing when I'm driving, I sing when I'm in the shower. I just love to sing. And two people, two different relationships, uh, both people told me that I had a horrible voice and I should stop singing. They didn't want to hear my voice. And I stopped singing. And recently, I've been working with Madeline Chan, and she actually contacted me and said that she thinks there's a singer in there. And I said, absolutely not. I have a horrible voice. And as I look back on those two people who were really influencers in my life, they both loved to sing and they both wanted to be professional singers. And I look back on it now, and I'm not saying I have a good voice or I don't have a good voice, but I look at why would they say that to me and be so steadfast with it. And I think it was because they thought that somehow I would, if I was singing, I was going to overshadow them singing. That's what I came up with. Does that sound accurate?
Absolutely. This is that very simple jealousy. You know, I've met with that myself in my corporate life, and certainly in some of the voluntary things that I've done in my time. And there is always someone that will feel insecure by the fact that you have natural talents, that it's not difficult for you. You naturally shine in something, and it will make the other person that's striving for something that they don't feel that they're adequate. They almost overshadow the person that has natural talent. And when you have natural talent, you don't think about it. You know, it's when somebody's working to have that skill that they will see natural talent, and it will make them feel uncomfortable. And I've certainly had situations where I thought, well, they've got everything. Why are they kind of, you know, why are they being like that with me? It's nonsense. Why are they being so mean? And, you know, there's other people that turn around and say, oh, they're just jealous of you. So that's ridiculous. Why are they jealous? You know, it's madness. But it's because we won't see what other people will see because they're not in the situation.
Yeah, that's very true. And I hope that this interaction that we're having, that there are people out there having an aha moment and going, oh, wait, this seems familiar, whether it's singing, whatever it is, that jealousy many times can show up as manipulation from the
Mm.
person who's jealous of you. And instead of them being happy for you, instead of them encouraging you, they want to belittle you, they want to put you down, they want to keep you down. So they use tactics of manipulation to make you feel small. I
Yeah.
mean, we can't make anyone feel anything, but that's typically what happens. We end up feeling small.
And that's a really good point, Dr. JACALYN, that no one can make you feel anything. You make you feel whatever you feel. And it's human to almost have that lack of confidence because we are human. You know, I think a lot of the Americans have a lot of confidence because it's different from the Brits. But, you know, there is innately in a lot of people a lack of confidence as they're growing up because of different experiences that they have. You know, we're not born like that. We're not born unconfident and feeling that we're not in our power. Things happen, life happens, and experiences happen where we don't perform as well, or somebody says something, and it's how we respond and react. I
Very
remember
true.
when I was at school, and I was choosing my options, and the art teacher that I had in that particular year, she I wanted to be an air hostess because it was a really good thing, you know, back then. It was a really kind of coveted type of job to want to do, you know, occupation. And I remember her words as if they were like yesterday. She said, you neither have the academic ability, the personality, or the confidence to be able to do anything like that. So forget it. And that was like my dream of what I wanted to be, completely dashed. And I lost everything. And I essentially said, well, I'm going to choose options for school that I enjoy rather than choosing a career. And that's what I did. And from that day to this, I do things that I love and I enjoy. And so on one hand, it was a good thing, but on the other hand, how to annihilate a child's dreams, it's not that glamorous now. Back then, a lot of girls wanted to be an air hostess because it was so glamorous. Our teachers and our peers have so much control how we can perform and how we respond in terms of our adult life.
Very true. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how to bust through that manipulation. No more manipulation. Be gone.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone. Stay tuned while we watch a couple of clips that are really important, and we'll be right back. We're going to start off with the brain tumor charity.
It's an amazing atmosphere. The brain tumor charity have been incredible. Everyone's just been really supportive. Worth every ache in my legs right now.
Brain tumours are something that affect a lot of young, fit people like myself. It's obviously an extremely good cause. What better way to raise some money than to do something like this?
The cheer point was a massive buzz because you knew when they were coming up. Don't wear earphones, soak in the atmosphere and enjoy it. The crowd will get you round, so if everybody does a little bit, it will make a massive difference.
Anyone can run the marathon. You sort of mentally think, I can't do it, but I think everybody can do it. My dad was diagnosed with glioblastoma in 2018, so I took it on myself to take the challenge on and raise as much money as possible.
I was running today's marathon because my sister has a brain tumour.
My dad sadly passed away from a brain tumour. I've finally managed to run the marathon, and I'm so happy to do it for my dad.
Whether it's the London Marathon or a half marathon or a cake sale that you're doing at your local village hall, it's amazing when you raise funds for the brain tumour charity because you are making a difference.
Feels really great having all the supporters on the side shouting for you. It's just such a fantastic charity. We know so little about brain tumours and how to fix them, and the work they do is fantastic, and it needs more support to do more research. We could save so many more people, and I think the London Marathon is a great way of raising funds.
or a gut feeling or the inner awareness, and I would go with what feels right or not right for you. And if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. What's right for the other person doesn't always mean it's right for you. And that's the key, to go inside and check in your internal, rather than asking externally. Check in and find out if it feels good for you. And if it doesn't, I would suggest that you hold back and not do it, or take some time to think about whether it feels right to go ahead. One of the ways to check in is to literally touch your heart. If you place your right hand on your heart, you then go from your head to your heart. And so if you're rationalizing and thinking through, well, this sounds good, that sounds good, and I'm not sure about this, and you're running around in the thoughts in your mind, check in with your heart. Because when you connect with your heart, just literally by placing a hand on in the middle of your chest, it then moves you from head to heart, and it helps you feel what feels right rather than think what feels right.
And once we have acknowledged what feels right in our body and what doesn't feel right, we decide to communicate with the person, and we share with them, hey, I just want to let you know, because I love you, I care about you, that I feel this when you do that, or what's coming up for me when you're asking me to make a decision about this in this way is this. And the other person flips out.
When you are explaining why, it's because there is something there that you're seeking approval for. And I used to be quite a fan of doing this, to explain, well, this doesn't feel right for me because of this, this, and this. If it's not right for you, simply say, it doesn't feel right for me. The other person doesn't actually need to hear why. Necessarily. That's almost for you to feel comfortable to say no. Certainly when we're seeking approval and don't want to upset the other person, it's much easier to go round the excuse lane, and actually you don't need to say why, really, and then it doesn't wind up the other person. So if you just say, this just doesn't feel good for me right now, or this just doesn't feel right, I'm sorry, I can't do this. And the excuse or the reason or the rationale isn't really necessary. And if you don't get into that, the other person has just heard no.
And when they hear this no and they're not happy about it, then what?
Then I would say something like, I'm sorry, it just isn't right for me at this time. Perhaps we can look again at another time. It's about standing your ground. If it's not right and it doesn't feel right for you, if you go into something that doesn't feel right, you'll only regret it. And if somebody's bullying you or bulldozing you into saying yes when it doesn't feel right, then there's a mismatch there in terms of the relationship that you have.
Thank you. And my experience has been that when you do address the person and say, this doesn't feel right for me, etc., that many times this is when super fantastic amounts of manipulation start.
Yeah.
Because now they're kind of like backed into a corner. You've stood up for yourself, and now they're thinking, oh, well, who does this person think that they are? And now they use additional manipulation tactics. So you have to be very strong, and you have to be convicted that in your position that this does not work for you. And you may have to be willing to lose the relationship, that you may decide you need to walk away.
Absolutely. It's about how much can you be in your truth and in your authenticity and in your integrity. A lot of people don't feel strong in their power to be comfortable in their authenticity, and so they can be swayed. I certainly was for many years, because I was seeking approval from other people. But when I stopped seeking approval, I found it a lot easier to say no, because that's all it is. No, it's not right for me. Or I would say, this feels good, I just can't do it right now. And but I will be back, and I will be doing it, and it's the timing, and the other person has to take that. And if they don't, then do you want to be in that relationship with them, whether it be business, personal, whether it be an intimate relationship? Do you really want to be there when you're feeling less in your power to be your authentic true self? I'm not convinced that it's the right place for you to be, because it's not good when you're feeling under that kind of pressure. It's good for some things to push you, but at the same time, it's also not good if you're not ready.
Very true. Thank you, Caroline. Something else I want to share as we come to the, believe it or not, last part of our show is there are red flags in terms of advertising, manipulative tactics to get people to do certain things. This is an opportunity you don't want to miss. If you miss this. So there's all kinds of ways to get us to think, wow, this is a fantastic opportunity. And I know myself that I'm very much aware now, much more aware now than I have been in the past, about how I word things, because you don't want to feel like you're putting something out there in the public domain that could be perceived as manipulative. Now, it's also buyer beware. Right. So when we read advertisements or we watch advertisements, we have to process what we're seeing or hearing, and we have to make a choice. Right. It's always about choice.
Well, this is how the marketers work. They are working in all these guises. And because my background is marketing, then there are things like limited availability, the first 20 tickets are, sort of VIP seats. If you're one of the first 50, then you're going to get this. And so there's all sorts of strategies, manipulation strategies, to get you to buy early. Some companies will say early bird up until this date. But if we sell out sooner, then the price goes up. And there are all sorts of manner of tactics that are used by companies and advertisers. And it's not wrong. It's just, their strategies. It's like the plumber has certain things that he does, and the electrician has certain things that he does. And it's about, sort of the marketing industry has certain things that they do to get the buyer in, and to get them locked into the sale. I want to share this with you because it's quite, I've had some very interesting, strong arm tactics where I've been in personal self-development seminars and conferences where they essentially, they make a presentation. So they do a speech, and then they make a sale, a pitch. And then it's the first 5 at the back of the room get a free gold pack with me. And so I've literally seen people run to the back of the room to be one of the first 5 people or the first 3 people. And so these strategies are known, and people are using them, and they work. Or the first 5 people get the discounted price, and then everybody after that, and they've given out the forms as and when the person has arrived. And these are their marketing strategies to get the sale, to make it appealing. And if you say that there's limited availability, scarcity is a ruse to get you to buy sooner rather than leaving it to the last minute.
Yes, these tactics have been in place for many years, and now, of course, there are agencies that oversee this to make sure that it doesn't go too far.
Well, I don't know whether you remember the Such and Such a Full Stop campaign. I don't know whether it reached America, did it? It was about stopping domestic abuse of children.
I don't remember it.
Right, it might have just been a British campaign, I'm not sure. But what they did was, it was a very harrowing advertising set of commercials. And essentially, they were showing children screaming and being hit, sort of in the background. They were sort of slap, slap, and the child was screaming. And it was to change behavior that people reported that they were seeing and hearing child abuse, domestic abuse. And it was in the time that it was launched, it was a very big deal, because it was kind of, the curtains twitched, but nobody said anything. It just went on in somebody else's house and people were quiet. But it changed behavior. It changed people's perception of they could get involved, they could make a call, they could report that there was domestic abuse to children going on. There was a child line that was set up, and the amount of children that were calling in saying that they were being abused was unbelievable. It was unprecedented. So sometimes some of these tactics are good. And they change public perception of what is okay to report on, or whether we mind our own businesses, because somebody is getting hurt. And so there is, we can take all sorts of things. It'd be worth you having a look at the Full Stop campaign, because it was very powerful. It was done by an agency, Saatchi and Saatchi, and it changed not only people's behavior, it changed public perception of what they could do about what they were hearing and uncomfortable about.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, the fact that there are positive outcomes. That's really great to have our audience be aware of that. Caroline, we have to close out this show because we have another show starting momentarily. So how can people reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
Anybody that feels stressed, if you're whatever you're complaining about, if you're complaining about your relationship, about things that you're angry about, if you're complaining about physical or emotional aches and pains, then I offer a free Zoom consultation, because we're in all different time zones here. We're worldwide. Email me at nomorestress@live.co.uk, and I offer a free 30-minute Zoom Stress Buster consultation. Please take advantage of that, because it will give you an incredible level of relaxation and incredible sleep once the root cause is identified.
Thank you so much. It's fabulous. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. I shall see you Sunday. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. It's been quite a week with amazing programs, phenomenal guests. Our next show coming up is Loving Longevity, and our guest is Dr. Joseph Maroon. He is a clinical professor and vice chairman in neuroscience at the University of Pittsburgh. He's also a consulting neurosurgeon for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is the medical director of the World Wrestling Entertainment Organization. So do stay and wait for that program, which is coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. British Summer Time. And immediately following, we will have presenting pet psychic Amina. And our guest today is the Reverend Dottie Boone. So thank you. We look forward to having you with us for those shows. If you're watching us over on YouTube, please go ahead and hit subscribe. We would love to have you as part of our USA Global TV family. Thank you so much. We'll be back shortly. Thank you, Caroline.